This is Markin Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Follow on Twitter. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Marking Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Brennan likes fisting. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. We're marking out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans.
Welcome to Markin Out, Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. This is episode 600. 600? No, we went way past that because we are in the 700s now. We are at 702. Make sure you're checking out markinout.com. Check us out on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else that you may be listening to our podcast, such as on Apple. But also buy a t-shirt, prowrestlingtees.com/markinout. Give us a follow over on Instagram and on Twitter. Check us out on TikTok. Check us out on Facebook as well. Send us an email. We get lonely without you. We miss you. Send us an email. Interact with us. But you can follow me on Instagram, Dave the Rave, at DavidPTDPT. You can follow Chris at Chris Sweendog over on Twitter and CMSweeney85 on Instagram. And you can follow Brandon all over the place at BTTG161. That being said, Brandon, how are you?
I am doing awesome as always. How about yourself?
Oh, just finding out that I had my speakers up way too loud. Because you yelled in my ear. You yelled in me ear. You yelled in me ear.
It's your charms I'm after.
Right? Oh, man. Yeah. Doing good over here. It is hot.
But we did have some crazy rainy-ass weather.
That is true. I feel like they kept on making it sound like it was going to be a lot worse than it really was, no?
I don't know. I feel like I didn't hear anything about it. It came out of nowhere, and I know the Foo Fighters concert, I think it was canceled the night before or something, but I'm not 100% sure. I know when I saw Garth Brooks, and it was like crazy rain, lightning, instead of canceling the show or postponing it, we literally waited. It was supposed to come on at 8. Brother came out at midnight and played till, I don't know, like 3 a.m. or something. Crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's wild. I don't know. I would never be able to even stay at a concert for that long.
I don't know why. It was like Garth Brooks experience.
Yeah. I would probably just try to get a refund or leave.
I don't know.
It for me, there becomes a point where it's just not enjoyable anymore.
I feel like you're in the moment when if you were there, you wouldn't have done that.
True.
But how was your week?
My week was it was good. Thanks for asking. How was yours?
It was good. I made some baked ziti. I used spinach in my meat sauce this time for the first time ever, which I really wanted to have peas, but I didn't have those. I wanted to have carrots. I didn't have carrots. So I had frozen spinach, and I thought it was pretty good. Never had it before, like I said. I'm not opposed to making that again. It was okay. But that's about it.
Nice. That's cool. Very cool. Well, upcoming, I'm going to be headed to Kansas City. So I will definitely update you next week on all of the happenings in Kansas City.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get... No, Kansas City's next weekend, isn't it?
No, I leave tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, I leave tomorrow.
Gotta write out some TikTok.
You gotta send me the list. You're the producer. Send me the list.
That's King Corbin's town.
Yeah. I don't know what to do for King Corbin.
You could just also run around and act like Taylor Swift as well, so.
That's more feasible.
The silence there was deafening there, so
But let's get on to some pro wrestling talk and talk about some Monday Night Raw.
Which kicked off with Rhea Ripley making her big return, or I guess like scheduled return. And she made her entrance. She came up an elevator, I think, and walked through the backstage area. I thought that was pretty cool. But she spoke about handling Dominic Mysterio, but more importantly, she was talking about handling Liv Morgan and the championship that she never lost. And she called Liv Morgan out so she could, I guess, rip her apart. But Dominic showed up instead with a black rose, a la Eddie Guerrero in China, perhaps?
It seems like it, no?
Yeah, I think so. And then Liv Morgan showed up.
Seems like they're taking a lot from there.
I don't know. I don't know about a lot, but maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But Liv Morgan appeared on the Tron and said that she wanted to just take Dominic from Rhea Ripley to piss her off. But then over time, she felt a real connection. And Dominic's sitting there like denying all of this. And Rhea Ripley ultimately challenged Liv Morgan for the championship at SummerSlam and said that she'll end her career. So I thought that was very impactful.
Yeah.
Which I guess we'll put a pin in all that.
Yeah, it comes up again.
The first match of Monday Night Raw saw Sheamus pick up the victory over Bronson Reed. Sheamus has a brand new theme song, which is very annoying because everybody for years has been wanting Written in My Face to return as his theme song. And we finally, I think it was in April, finally returns as they had like the intro part that was like his newer theme, and it went into Written in My Face, and they took it away from us after like 3 months. I don't think the new theme song is bad. It fits Sheamus, but we literally for years have been saying we want Written in My Face as his theme song. Finally had it, and then they're like, nah, here's this instead. So
yeah, I think it stinks because his other theme song it's epic.
It's a banger.
After banger.
So,
after banger.
It's unfortunate, but I thought this was a good match. I liked Sheamus doing the what is it, the Beats of Badron or whatever you pronounce that, on the commentary table instead of the ropes. I thought that was pretty cool, but Bronson Reed missed the moonsault. Sheamus hit the running brogue knee. It's not the brogue kick, it's just that knee, and he picked up the victory off of that. And
I wonder why he switched over to the knee instead of the boot.
He does both of them. I don't, maybe that was supposed to be a brogue kick and not a knee. I have no idea. It's probably was supposed to be the knee, because if it was the brogue kick, it would have been the brogue kick, I assume.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't think that anything that he does, if he intends to throw the knee, I would assume that it was intentional for the knee.
Yeah, so Bronson Reed afterwards tried to attack Sheamus, but Pete Dunne took him out, and Sheamus went to thank him. Pete Dunne walked off. Sheamus turned his back to Pete Dunne, and Pete Dunne got back in the ring and beat Sheamus down. And then Bronson Reed went up to the top, hit a tsunami on Sheamus, and that's how that segment ended. But Pete Dunne showing signs of Butch a little bit. He's kind of angry at the world right now, it seems.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's really a Butch sign, but maybe more so just done being done.
I mean, yeah, bruiserweight is bruiserweight, but still,
exactly.
I feel like Butch was like the stick of dynamite.
I agree with you with that. I feel like I don't really see it too much as Butch. Because I feel like if it was Butch, he would have just been there pounding on him until somebody came to rip him off of him.
Right.
I feel like this is just a heel Pete Dunne being done with
maybe
Sheamus.
He's lost. I don't know.
Maybe.
Tyler Bates out with an injury. We don't know when he'll return, unfortunately.
Well, talking about returning to the ring, we got Sonya Deville picking up the victory over Zelina Vega.
That's a good segue.
Thanks. Yeah, Deville has always. I'm happy to see her back in the ring as a wrestler. It's been a very long time.
Yeah, and before everything took place, Zelina Vega said she wants next, basically. And Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark showed up and completely shut that down. Sonya's like, the line doesn't start with you. It doesn't start with Liv Morgan. It doesn't start with Rhea Ripley. It starts with us. And we go to the match. Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark got involved behind the referee's back. Sonya Deville got that win. And they pounced on her after Sonya Deville won. And it drew out Lyra Valkyria, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance to make the save. It also, I think, technically sets up the match that took place later on, where we saw Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark defeat Katana Chance and Kaden Carter.
Bah.
I thought this was a good match. I liked Katana Chance and Kaden Carter doing that keg stand to the outside. I'm not 100% sure if they've done that before or not. Typically, it's just like in the ring. Also, that standing moonsault, like knees thing that Katana Chance did to Shayna Baszler was pretty cool. But I'm glad it wasn't super one-sided. I kind of wish that this took place directly after that last match with Sonya Deville and Zelina Vega, just to condense everything, I guess. I feel like because they're out there, you might as well.
Yeah, I more so want to see. I want to see Zelina Vega with a legit chance to go after a championship. She just went up against Liv Morgan and everything, and I feel like now she's just gonna get tossed back down.
I don't know. We'll see what happens with this. With Sonya Deville right now, she's not wanting Zelina Vega to be next.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
We also saw Lyra Valkyria get involved here after I guess Sonya Deville also got involved, so Lyra Valkyria stepped in and stopped that from happening, but obviously didn't go in their favor.
Yeah.
We had a face-to-face with Gunther and Damian Priest, where Gunther said that Damian Priest isn't living up to the championship and asked him to just hand it over to him and not even wait for SummerSlam, just give me the championship. Earlier in a video, Gunther said that it was never his dream, I guess maybe to be a WWE superstar or champion. I'm not quite sure which one, but Damian Priest was like, if it's not your dream, then leave.
Yeah.
I worked 20 plus years to get here. I lived on the streets to do so. And this segment kind of made me want Damian Priest to retain the championship at SummerSlam.
You know, I did see a lot of people saying that whatever he was saying, his Gunther's verbiage was borderline not really PC.
I don't think what they had Gunther saying to me doesn't line up with Gunther. So I thought that was weird.
Okay,
but,
I could see what you mean.
But with them taking that route, I'm like, of course, I've been all for Gunther winning that championship. Maybe something happens during that match where Damian Priest retains, and then maybe Gunther wins at Bash in Berlin. I don't want him to win at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And then Braun Strowman came out for his match, and Damian Priest defeated Braun Strowman. That promo also wanted me to see Damian Priest beat Braun Strowman. Which, I don't know if they intended to make Damian... They have to be intending to make Damian Priest a face at some point. especially with Rhea Ripley, everything that's going on with the Judgment Day. Then again, I have no idea how. I don't know. We'll have to see how everything plays out with that, because Rhea Ripley, I mean, she's obviously over as a babyface.
Yeah, she's huge as a babyface.
But in the match, we saw Damian Priest sidestep that train gimmick. Braun Strowman goes over the barricade and then starts clutching his knee. And that came into play later on in the match when he tried to do a power slam and he couldn't do it. Damian Priest hits a South of Heaven chokeslam on Braun Strowman. And I thought this was a great victory for Damian Priest. Gunther came out after this and they stared each other down. It came to blows. So I think they did a very good job at setting up SummerSlam to make people invested in this match.
Yeah.
Because
I could definitely agree.
I mean, Gunther, for the last, since winning the King of the Ring, hasn't really been present on television.
No. I agree. They've kept him off for a long time. I think at some point we're due for Gunther versus Dragunov. Especially with how they're playing more Dragunov hype videos.
Well, I don't know. I feel like they're in two different scenes right now.
I feel like they are, but I feel like at some point it's going to lead to that. What do you think do you think that Braun can end up joining the Wyatts?
I don't know.
I was thinking about it today and everything, and I was thinking I feel like Rowan, I think he has a lot of potential, but I think we need a large, dominant tag team as well. And what happens if somehow they end up, not within the near future, I'm talking maybe within a year or two, what happens if they get to Braun Strowman? Because Braun, obviously, he's one of the wrestlers that was very close to Bray Wyatt, the Wyatt family, Luke Harper, and we haven't heard really his side of the story yet. He got released, he came back. What if they spin that reality, meshing it a little bit with pro wrestling, and they get to Braun Strowman being like, listen, you belong with us, and then it just slow burns until Braun ends up aligning himself and then tag teaming with Rowan to become tag team champions or something.
I mean, when the idea of this group was floated around, I feel like everyone thought it was a no-brainer to have Braun Strowman included. Obviously, Alexa Bliss as well, so we don't know. She hasn't made her return yet.
Yeah, I feel like Braun and Alexa are two obvious people to join their group at some point. And like I said, this could be 2 years or 1 to 2 years down the line. Doesn't have to be right now, but I feel like we can see them align with it in some manner.
But then again, it's I understand, but then what's also stopping them? Why not? If you're going for other former members, you're going for Braun Strowman. Why not? Why aren't you going for Randy Orton?
It's funny. I just when you mentioned that, I'm I wonder if you're going to say Randy Orton.
Obviously, we know what's stopping them from going from Daniel Bryan, but
Randy Orton I see more as an opponent to Bray Wyatt.
I mean, Randy Orton was in the Wyatt family. He was tag team champions with them.
Yeah, even still, I would see, especially with the recent WrestleMania matchup, I would see them more as foes as opposed to friends. Yeah, because at the same, nah.
But I feel like did Braun Strowman work against them too?
Against who?
The Wyatts?
Yeah. I think you had Bray versus Braun in the
that
I forgot if it was a pay-per-view or whatever. It was when what?
It was that swamp match.
Yeah, and everybody thought at one point that Braun was going to side with them and join them, and then he didn't. So it's possible. I would definitely be invested into it. But next up, you had Adam Pearce in the ring with a few referees calling out Drew McIntyre. the writing's on the wall. TNA champ.
Yeah, Adam Pierce spoke about Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk and said that if Drew McIntyre wants it, he needs to apologize to the referees for doing what he did at Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre was obviously hesitant to apologize. And then he yelled at Adam Pierce about them screwing him over and over again and how it all happened under Adam Pierce's watch. And it should be him and them apologizing to Drew McIntyre. And Adam Pierce was like, if you're not going to own up to it, then you're still suspended. And that led to McIntyre pushing the referees down. And then Seth Rollins came out to brawl. And that continues to tie Seth Rollins into that storyline. So it seems like we're going to be getting Drew, Seth, and Punk at SummerSlam. I don't see any other way around that.
Yeah.
Unless, for some reason, CM Punk's not cleared and it's Drew versus Seth, and then CM Punk gets involved at SummerSlam.
No, I could see CM Punk involvement in there. But, I mean, with the suspension and stuff, I would love to see Drew and TNA for a little bit.
I don't know if that's happening.
It could definitely buy time with everything.
But that just, I don't know, because then he'd have to be like super dominant over there. And I don't know if they'd want to do that right now. They have Slammiversary this weekend, so
I don't think he has to be super dominant.
I think 100% you got to be super dominant if you're going over there as this character of Drew McIntyre. Everyone screws me, so I'm going to screw you, basically.
Yeah, but I feel like all right, so maybe he dominates one person, but then if you have somebody like Moose step up, I don't think he should dominate Moose.
I don't even know how that's going to work. They have a 6-way elimination match for that championship at Slammiversary.
Hey,
where, by the way,
shows up.
Joe Hendry said that if he wins, he's going to call out John Cena, which I would love to have Joe Hendry win that TNA championship and then immediately call out John Cena, and then John Cena works TNA for a match or so.
I mean, there's so much potential right now with the intermeshing of TNA and WWE.
Yeah, like
I mean,
nobody from WWE right now at this moment is announced for Slammiversary. I thought for sure AJ Styles was going to have like a big match at Slammiversary.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that we're going to have the Rascalz.
I mean, they're not announced for anything right now.
Exactly. Like, I feel like because you have... who's Catch Order?
No Quarter Catch Crew?
Catch Crew with them because Wesley hasn't really joined them over there yet. So I could feel like you could end up getting a 3-on-3 tossed together.
I don't know.
At that. Did you know that Abyss almost wrestled Undertaker at WrestleMania?
I don't think so.
I think it was WrestleMania or another event. He almost wrestled Undertaker.
I saw The Rock wanted to work Rey Mysterio at whatever Backlash when he worked Goldberg instead.
Yeah, I just saw that come up on my feed and how The Rock never had a match with Rey Mysterio. Apparently, they spoke about him Busted Open, one of the episodes. Apparently, Abyss was in talks to actually wrestle The Undertaker, but he thought that he would. But there was something in the contract where he didn't realize that he was actually still under contract with TNA. And when it got like, they were so close to pinning it all together with him versus Undertaker. And this was back in like Abyss's heyday, like when he was the monster Abyss. Apparently he was really close to doing it, but then they pulled out the contract saying like, hey, actually, no, he's not able to wrestle for WWE and this and that. And they had to cut Abyss out of the entire thing. I think, like, I forgot who it was that ended up saying, like, that they couldn't, like, maybe it was Tommy Dreamer or Bully Ray saying that they can't actually appear on WWE television. But it's interesting to know, like, back then that we were so close to getting the Monster Abyss versus Undertaker.
This says that Abyss didn't take the offer and instead was inducted to the TNA Hall of Fame.
So that's it. On Busted Open, they said it was because of contract. So maybe he didn't take the offer, but he didn't take the offer because of him because of the contract clause within TNA.
Also, this is from 2018. So it would have been...
Apparently, it was back in 2006.
Oh.
Yeah, it was back in 2006 that they wanted to put Abyss versus Undertaker.
Maybe they wanted to do it again, or actually do it in 2018 as well. That's when John Cena lost in like 3 minutes to Taker.
Yeah.
But how did we even get to... Oh, because McIntyre went to TNA, maybe.
Yeah.
But after that, on Monday Night Raw, we saw Jey Uso pick up the victory over Dominic Mysterio. And we said we'd put a pin in that, whatever. Throughout the night, Dominic kept trying to apologize to Rhea Ripley. And she was not having any of it. Jey Uso was super happy that Rhea Ripley was back. And Dominic wanted to battle for the honor of Rhea Ripley, which she called him stupid for doing that. And then he tried to back out of it, and she was like, absolutely not. So we get to the match. Dominic attacks Jey Uso before the bell even rings. But the big storyline chunk here, Liv Morgan eventually came out, saved Dominic from an Uso splash, and he had his back towards Jey arguing with Liv Morgan, and Jey drop-kicked Dominic onto Liv Morgan. She turned it around super quick to mount him instead. And then Rhea Ripley came out and she ran off. It led to Dominic getting back into the ring, getting speared by Jey, and then eating an Uso splash. And then backstage, Rhea Ripley said that she doesn't belong to anyone, and Dominic actually belongs to her, basically. So for now, it seems like water under the bridge, but I still feel like we're going to have that split where Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest end up against Carlito, Dominic, JD, and Finn at some point.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, like, I go back and forth whether or not I see, because with that potential face turn for Damian Priest, now right here, Rhea Ripley's seemingly accepting Dominic's apology. So, But earlier the night, we saw Adam Pearce and Chad Gable, and Chad Gable said that he cracked the code and he knows who Uncle Howdy is. He knows it's Bo Dallas, and he wants to know what he and Adam Pearce spoke about. And Adam Pearce was like, yeah, obviously people know it's Bo Dallas, and he's here. If you want to talk to him, go talk to him. And Chad Gable, we saw him later on speak to the Alpha Academy, and he thought they were like reunited based on a conversation that he walked into, but it was actually them agreeing to help Xavier Woods out with the Final Testament, with Kofi Kingston being out. And they were like, I think they were like, we're good, but we're not helping you. We're still not helping you. And then we saw footage of the Wyatt Six invade the Pat McAfee show from earlier in the day. He got another videotape.
So real quick, do you like the aspect of Chad Gable saying how he knows it's Bo Dallas and stuff like that? And
well, I mean, he'd have to be a moron if he didn't. We all saw it, so
exactly. Do you think that that makes it stupid? Or no,
I think that's funny. That adds to the aspect of the Chad Gable character.
All right, so it doesn't take away from the Wyatt family for you.
No, because we also know.
We
watched the video. We have the video this week. It was a sit down with Eric Rowan.
So that's the thing. Like, I mean, so one thing I didn't like. Well, I don't like how the videos are appearing. Like the Pat McAfee show, how it just a box appears. I don't like that, and I don't like the security guards whenever they have them out there are like passed out when the smoke appears.
Well, we didn't get that this week.
Yeah, we didn't get it this week, but I think that those two things I really dislike. Those are two.
And what do you mean?
For me,
how's that supernatural?
A box appearing out of nowhere.
We didn't see who dropped it off. Obviously, in past weeks, we've seen Nikki drop it off. She's not going to be in Indiana doing this angle.
Well, that's the thing. I would have rathered, for like the Pat McAfee show, right? I would have rathered Nikki Cross appearing and then dropping the box and then leaving.
I feel like we saw the aftermath of the video appearing, though. It could have been anybody who dropped it off.
But that's the thing. But they were recording, and like nobody notices that there's a box there the entire time.
But wasn't there like the lights go out and whatever?
Yeah, you have to suspend.
That's just horror movie. That's just horror movie 101.
I know. I don't like that.
But this week's videotape was Eric Rowan sitting down. He spoke about losing his family, alluding to Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, losing one brother and going into like a numb state and being really bad. And then once he started to feel better, he lost another brother.
Yeah, and he said he was at his lowest when I believe he's alluding to Uncle Howdy pulling him up.
Yeah, I mean, it got so.
It was sad. This was a sad video.
Yeah, I felt really like it really makes you feel for Eric Rowan.
Yeah,
because you also, I mean, it's a lot of reality.
I mean, yeah, we lived through whatever he's speaking about. Obviously not on the same level at all, but we know everything that happened to be true.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a very well done video. Very, very sad.
Yeah, I agree.
And then later on, Chad Gable went out to the ring and he called Bo Dallas out. And Bo showed up only to be attacked out of nowhere by Julius and Brutai, the Creed brothers.
It sounded like the crowd didn't react to Bo Dallas too much, though.
I don't know.
Like, it didn't sound like he didn't get really much of a response. I feel like I don't know how I feel with how he came out there.
Well, he didn't have a theme song.
Yeah, there was no theme song,
which makes
no
sense.
Reaction to the crowd.
I'd have to re-listen to the crowd reaction.
Yeah,
did like Bo Dallas was left laughing, and they continued the beat down.
This gave me shades of the Joker versus Batman in The Dark Knight.
Unfamiliar.
So, like, there's a scene, and you never saw that?
No.
So there's an interrogation scene for where Batman's interrogating Joker, Heath Ledger. And he's interrogating him, and he's like, I'm going to do it my way. And this is during a time where Joker has kidnapped Commissioner Gordon and Batman's love interest. And he has everything planned with a plot, and they're trying to find them. And Batman is on the clock, has to find out where they are. And he's like, I'm going to find this out my way. So pretty much he locks himself in a room, interrogation room with Joker, and he just beats the crap out of him. He bloodies him up, beats him up.
As Batman?
The entire time.
Obviously as Batman, right?
I'm sorry?
As Batman?
Yeah, as Batman. As Batman. And the entire time the Joker is just laughing. Heath Ledger is laughing and laughing and laughing. Because he knows that this is playing into his plan. And then it ended up playing directly into his plan. And that's the only thing I thought when I was seeing Bo Dallas getting beaten down, was this just gave me such vibes of that scene from Dark Knight.
I liked Bo repeatedly saying, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know. How does that not grip you, though? I freaking miss it. Like, I miss Bray. I miss Harper, you know? They should not be gone.
Yeah.
They should not be gone. It's so upsetting, and like, how do you not like the Wyatt family, Bo Dallas? How do you not cheer Eric Rowan, especially right now? And no, like, with Bo Dallas saying, yeah, how are you going to go against him doing homage to Luke Harper?
I don't think anybody's going against them right now.
Exactly. Like, these people, they're going to be have the crowd so sympathetic to them, and you're going to want to see them win on top. But it's going to be interesting because they're also sadistic psychos. I feel like it's very... I mean, look at how they left the entire production guerrilla position. It's also similar to horror movies. Like, some of the most grotesque horror villains have sympathetic backgrounds at times that led to them becoming who they are.
I mean, that's,
for example,
that's
I
like,
think,
but that's like storytelling 101 in general. Like, Drew McIntyre right now,
true,
is portrayed as a heel, but he's doing everything that he's doing because he knows that he's right.
Very true. Like, I think, like, I forgot some of the things. I think I could be totally wrong. I think Candyman may have been in an interracial relationship or something, and because of that, he had honey thrown on him and bees attack him. And then you have Frankenstein. You have, like, there's of course, there's some horror villains that...
Monster.
Frankenstein's monster. There's so many villains that are there that, like, are really horrific, but then you also have a few villains that you're like, their backstories, you're like, wow, like, these people really did them wrong. But you're right, storytelling 101, and it's definitely a damn good story.
And the power goes out, the Wyatt Six appear, and Chad Gable and the Creed brothers take off, and we have that, like, final shot of the Wyatt Six posing together, first time in the ring with Bo Dallas. So I thought that was very cool.
Yeah,
that was, I believe, the anniversary of The Fiend making his debut.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I believe so. And then in the main event of Monday Night Raw, we saw Ilya Dragunov pick up the victory over Sami Zayn via disqualification. So Sami Zayn retained the championship. Breakker was pissed off that Ilya Dragunov was getting a title shot. So you had to know that he was going to show up during this. I think Adam Pearce barred him from the building or whatever, but I might be mixing that up. This was a very competitive match, though. Dragunov hit that H-bomb from the apron, and I thought we would see Braun Breaker show up then. But they kept going. Sami Zayn at one point hit Ilya Dragunov off the apron with a haluva kick. And when Sami Zayn went outside to get him back into the ring, that's when Braun Breaker showed up. He speared Ilya Dragunov. He went after Sami Zayn. Sami fought back for a bit. But Braun Breaker took over and speared the absolute heck out of Sami Zayn.
Oh, he
and
rocked him.
It ends with Braun Breaker on top to close Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving over to NXT, it opened up with the Rascalz picking up the victory over Gallus, which it was very cool hearing Vic Joseph saying that the Rascalz, MSK, are former NXT Tag Team Champions as well as former Dusty Classic tournament winners and the inclusion of TNA Tag Team Champions. And overall, this was just so surreal to see. Joe Hendry randomly shows up during this to do commentary. And the match itself got pretty chaotic, but it was like on point for what you would expect from a Rascalz match. And it was fun. Rewind 3 weeks ago or so, you would never expect this. Or 4 weeks ago, maybe, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe Hendry narrated a video about his tag team match from last week. He also said that he's sticking around. He likes NXT. He likes being there. And later on, we had Gallus walking backstage annoyed that they lost to the Rascalz. They were annoyed with Joe Hendry. And because I think it was Joe who said his name, you hear the music play and everything, Joe Hendry appears. And Gallus was like, nobody in NXT likes you. We don't want TNA here. When we think of Scotland, when the fans think of Scotland, they think of us. They think of Drew McIntyre. They do not think of you. So I have to assume we're going to see Joe Hendry versus Joe Coffey.
Could be something. I could see that.
After that, we had Roxanne Perez come out to the ring, and she brought up Charlotte Flair and how she's on pace to shatter all of her records. She's on pace to shatter Bayley's records, Asuka's records, Rhea Ripley's records. She brought up Julia. She brought up Stephanie Vicor, and how the internet says, oh, when they show up, Roxanne's going to be in trouble. And then she made fun of Thea Hale being her next opponent. And Thea Hale came out and said that Roxanne Perez acts like people owe her respect, but nobody owes her anything. And she used to look up to Roxanne. And then Roxanne Perez threw more disrespect towards Thea Hale. It came to blows with Thea Hale locking Roxanne Perez in that Kimura before Ridge Holland broke it up.
For sure.
We had Javon Evans pick up the victory over Brooks Jensen. Josh Briggs was with Brooks Jensen, even though Jensen didn't want him out there. And despite Brooks Jensen starting on fire, we had Javon Evans, I think, control a lot of the beginning of this match. But we saw Brooks hit some crazy moves in this. He did that RVD leg drop onto the commentary table. That was like kind of messy, very unexpected to see from Brooks. But we saw Sean Spears come out, and Jensen told Brooks to not worry about him. And that allowed for Evans to dive onto Brooks Jensen, get the victory. And then Jensen attacked Javon after the match. Josh Briggs pulled him off and yelled at him. He's like, this is my name on the line. Like, I stuck my neck out for you. And he was not happy with the way Brooks Jensen was acting. Brooks, in turn, challenged Josh Briggs to a match. He's like, we already did this. I'm not doing this. And then he's like, well, let's do a no DQ match then. And that gets set up for next week. So I have to assume Jensen's coming out on top there, or it's going to be one of those things where he gets beat down and laughs about it or something. I don't know.
I could see him totally get taken out and beat down.
In the same sense, I don't know, maybe they write Josh Briggs off TV. He's going to Noah for a while. I don't know how long. So who knows? We saw a backstage segment with Tony D'Angelo and Charlie Dempsey where they spoke about the trunk thing with Damon Kemp. And Charlie Dempsey said that he got into a situation and a witness saw. So he wanted, I guess, help with that. And Tony D'Angelo found out that it was a woman. He's like, no. You're going to take care of that on your own. And later on, which I thought was a very funny segment between the two of them, but later on, we saw Ren Sinclair, and she's like, I want to join your group, the No Quarter Catch crew. And she kind of blackmailed them, or tried to blackmail them. And she questioned, she's like, what would your dad think of this? Obviously alluding to William Regal. And she was super playful about all of it. And she's like, one way or another, I'm going to wrestle my way into the group. So hopefully that does mean that Ren Sinclair will join the No Quarter Catch crew, and we'll see more of her on TV. Because it's been quite some time that she made that big debut for NXT, and we really haven't seen much from her.
Mm-hmm.
So here's hoping for that. We had Trick Williams backstage talking on the cell phone. He was talking about losing his championship. He wanted advice. And then the camera pans down and we find out he's talking to Ilya Dragunov. And I think Ilya Dragunov was like, well, it's two different situations where I can't really give you advice. And then Trick went to ask Pete Dunne for advice. And Pete Dunne was like, figure it out. That's like he wants nothing to do with anybody right now.
Yeah.
So when we see Pete Dunne snap, I don't know.
I just hope that he remains on the main roster. I want to see him and Sheamus develop.
Well, I think we're seeing both, at least for now.
True.
Earlier in the night, we saw Ethan Page and Ava, and he said that he has some complaints about NXT, which I think is really funny. And Oro Mensah showed up, and they got into a screaming match, and Ava's like, "You're not in the title picture right now because you keep attacking Ethan Page." And Ava was like, to Ethan Page, she's like, "If you want to defend the title, you can do it later." And Ethan Page was like, "Oh, I'll defend it against Dante Chen." And then Ethan Page obviously goes on to retain the championship against Dante Chen, but it was not a one-sided match at all. And Dante
Chen got a lot in there.
Yeah, and he almost, I know he was not anywhere close to actually winning, but watching it on TV, he came really close a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy that they made it look like that he could at least do that. But Ethan Page gets the victory. Oro Mensah shows up afterwards, and Ethan Page dropped him. And Page walked off. Oro Mensah continued the attack and pinned Ethan Page, counted himself the 1, 2, 3. So I think that's obviously leading to Ethan Page versus Oro Mensah for that championship.
I think so. And I think that I think Ethan Page has to continue his run.
Yeah, well, yeah, Oro Mensah's not winning the championship right now.
Yeah. I think that he's going to hold it for at least 2 months.
We saw Ashanti the Adonis and Cedric Alexander walking backstage with Ashanti checking out all the women from NXT. And he spoke to Metaphor, and Lash was like, "No." And he's like, "I'm actually talking to Jakara." And then Oro Mensah showed up to yell at him, so I assume we're going to see that as well.
Yeah. Next up, you had Tatum Paxley pick up the victory over Izzy Dame. Tatum Paxley getting a lot with interaction with her and that doll.
Yeah. I like, first of all, before we talk about the doll, I like at the very beginning of this segment where Izzy Dame is making her entrance, Tatum Paxley like creepily inserted herself into the entrance, laying in between her legs. I thought that was pretty cool. But Wendy Chu showed up during this. It did not affect the match. From my viewing point, it didn't affect the match. And I thought for sure Izzy Dame was going to win this match, but Tatum Paxley gets that victory. And the big interaction afterwards, Wendy Chu had that Barbie doll from last week. And Tatum put the head back on. Later on, we saw Kalani Jordan talk to her about the Barbie doll. And I guess Tatum it looks like she wants the championship. She had a Barbie doll to depict Kalani Jordan, I guess. So it seems like she's coming for the North American Championship.
I could see her win it.
Nah, I don't think so.
You don't think?
Not now at all. I would be so annoyed with that because you want a championship. It's the very first championship. Reign, at least. You want that reign to mean something.
True. That's true.
Earlier, we saw Lola Vice interviewed, and afterwards, she spoke about Roxanne Perez and how she needed to hit 5 pop rocks to actually win her match against her. And JC Jane, Fallon Henley, and Jasmine Nix interrupted. They mean girled her, which sets up a match where we see Lola Vice pick up the victory over JC Jane. The beginning of this, I thought, had some good back and forth, but Lola Vice ends up knocking JC out with that spinning back fist. And Fallon Henley attacked Lola Vice afterwards. And JC Jane joined in, Jasmine Nix joined in, and it led to Sol Ruka and Carmen Petrovic running down to make that save. has to, I assume, again, 6-woman tag perhaps.
Seems like it.
Then we saw the OC pick up the victory over OTM. Quite impressive.
OTM, I think, are going to be champs.
Quite impressive in this match against the OC.
Yeah, OTM, I actually thought OTM was going to win this.
I didn't think that.
I thought that they could definitely.
But I liked Jada Parker hitting her hip attack on Carl Anderson. And then Mia Yim hit Eat Defeat on Bronco Nima, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And obviously this is going to continue.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Main event of the evening, you had Obafemi retain his championship against Duke Hudson. Obafemi, he's not losing. I feel like they need somebody who is just as powerful as he is in order to dethrone him.
It was cool to see both of them in this main event, though. And it was a very competitive match. And it was awesome to see Duke Hudson close to winning a few times. He kicked out of that chokeslam towards the end. Mm-hmm. I was not expecting that. I thought that was great. This was a very, very good main event. So kudos to both of them. And I did think we'd see like a surprise challenger afterwards for Obafemi, but that didn't happen. That's I guess probably the one thing I would have changed about that segment.
All right, I could understand that.
So that's NXT. Moving over to SmackDown, it opened up with Cody Rhodes, and he spoke about his history with Randy Orton and having to watch the Bloodline put Randy Orton through a table in front of him. And he said Randy Orton is a brother to him. And he moved on to talking about Solo Sikoa. Basically said Solo's still not ready. And then A-Town Down Under interrupted. Austin Theory blamed Cody Rhodes for Jacob Fatu beating him up last week. Cody blamed Austin Theory's injury on Grayson Waller. And then it led to him taking A-Town Down Under on by himself. And then Terrence Crawford, a boxer, I believe, was sitting ringside and gave Cody Rhodes his chair. And Cody got the upper hand with that. Then he asked backstage Nick Aldis for a match against A-Town Down Under. Nick Aldis was like, I can give you that, but you need a partner. Cody tried to say no, but Nick Aldis was not taking no for that answer. So I'll put a pin in that. First match of SmackDown saw Andrade pick up the victory over Carmelo Hayes. I thought this was a very entertaining match. Pretty evenly matched, by the way. The fans were super into it, and I want more of this matchup, I should say, at least. I think they can. I don't think they'll do a best of 7, but I would not mind a best of 7 between the two of them. I thought this was the most entertaining match on SmackDown in ring wise. After that, Bayley and Nia Jax had an interview, sit down, split screen. Nia Jax basically saying she's taking the title from Bayley at SummerSlam and putting her down. Bayley brought up Nia Jax taking her out of the 2017 SummerSlam and how it pretty much changed her career. And she said basically something like the only reason why Nia Jax is able to do what she does or whatever is because she's big, clumsy, and reckless, which I feel like in the past you could definitely say that about Nia Jax, but it felt like an odd thing for a 2024 Bayley to say to a 2024 Nia Jax. I know that's like a headline grabber, but it just felt out of character for Bayley. I don't think Nia Jax's retort was great for that, but Bayley said she's walking out champion. We had Bianca Belair pick up the victory over Chelsea Green. This stemmed from both teams wanting to speak to Nick Aldis earlier. The match itself was pretty quick, and I definitely thought Chelsea Green was about to win. Like a quick victory there, but Bianca Belair was able to roll back and pin Chelsea. The four of them went face-to-face afterwards, and then Chelsea pulled Piper Niven out of the ring. They left. The Unholy Union showed up on the screen to talk to Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. saying that I guess they're probably going to have some sort of match next week. I don't think the titles are on the line. After that, LA Knight and Logan Paul had their contract signing. They went back and forth. Logan Paul called LA Knight by his real name in this and said that LA Knight needs this match way more than Logan Paul will ever need this match, basically. And Logan Paul said that when he leaves the WWE ring, he's doing so many other things, basically alluding to LA Knight just being a pro wrestler. And Nick Aldis got in between them, held them back. Didn't last long. It did come to blows. They each reversed one another, so I thought this was a good ending to that segment where it definitely hypes you up for SummerSlam. After this backstage, Santos Escobar and Elektra Lopez stopped LA Knight. Escobar brought up also being in that match to qualify for the Money in the Bank in Madison Square Garden and how he wasn't pinned in that match. So it sets up a match between Santos Escobar and LA Knight. We saw Mia Yim pick up the victory over Tiffany Stratton. They played a hype video for Tiffany Stratton beforehand, and I thought they had a pretty good match. Tiffany Stratton controlled most of this, but Nia Jax got involved behind the referee's back. That distracted Mia Yim. It almost led to the end of the match, but Bayley showed up, and that distracted Tiffany Stratton. And then Bayley brawled with Nia Jax a little bit. She destroyed the Money in the Bank briefcase. I was going to question how quickly they can get a case together and how they probably should get on it to get a custom case for Tiffany Stratton. But with this, Bayley destroying that briefcase, it seems like they're already on that. So I'm happy that that's going to be finally coming soon, it seems. And it's also nice to see Mia Yim get a victory on SmackDown. We're going to see Bayley and Mia Yim team up against Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. Earlier in the night, they aired a promo from the Bloodline. It had a very nice look to it. Solo basically said that he can't wait to see who steps up to tag with Cody Rhodes, because that basically means you're disrespecting the Bloodline. Kevin Owens stepped up to tag with Cody Rhodes, and they went on to defeat A-Town Down Under. I thought it was hilarious at one point when Grayson Waller picked up the big Prime bottle after Kevin Owens knocked it over. Kevin Owens was super fired up in this match and eventually knocked it down again. I thought that was funny, but Grayson Waller basically caused Austin Theory to get hit by Cody Rhodes and basically lose the match here. So I thought this was a good main event. A pretty good tag team match as well. I don't know when we're going to see A-Town Down Under blow up completely. But after this match, the Bloodline showed up without Jacob Fatu. Cody Rhodes dove onto the three of them. Kevin Owens brawled with Tonga Loa. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens went to put Solo through the commentary table, but that's when Jacob Fatu showed up. Kevin Owens tried to fight back. He got shut down. And Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa held Cody Rhodes so he can watch Jacob Fatu hit a hip attack to Kevin Owens in the corner over and over and over again. And then they went to put Cody through the commentary table. Kevin Owens still crawling. They did put Cody through the table, but Kevin Owens wasn't giving up just that easy, I guess. Tama Tonga takes Kevin Owens' head, wraps a steel chair around it, and tosses him into the ring post to end SmackDown, which was a pretty crazy ending. I don't know. Obviously, the Bloodline has to be involved in that match with Cody Rhodes. It's kind of their MO at SummerSlam. I don't know who. Do we see a new person show up to help Cody Rhodes in the match? Obviously, the choices would be Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, but is there going to be somebody else? I have no idea. But that's SmackDown. Going to take a quick little break, and I'll be right back here on Markin Out.
Hey, it's Cassidy Pope, and you're listening to Markin Out.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Markin Out episode 702. Going back to AEW Rampage from last week, we saw the House of Black pick up the victory over the Premier Athletes. This match went so much longer than I expected it to. And I also wasn't 100% sure if Tony Nese, Daivari, and Josh Woods were done with Hook, Samoa Joe, and Shibata, but they moved on. Obviously, everything that happened with Team Joe, they're off TV. But we haven't seen the Premier Athletes for a few weeks. So it was nice to see them again. We saw Woods help the Premier Athletes cheat. It also feels like they controlled most of this match, which kind of doesn't make sense to me. Brody King kind of looks weak for the most part here. But we saw Daivari behind the referee's back smash Mark Sterling's clipboard over Malachi Black's head. It went everywhere. I think probably the best spot of this match was the crossbody from Brody into Mark onto Daivari outside the ring into the barricade. But this match ultimately left me wanting to see Malachi Black versus Tony Nese one-on-one. We saw it one time, I think, in WWE. But I would like to see an actual match between the two of them where, like, they can be somewhat equals in AEW at least. After that, we saw Fenix pick up the victory over AR Fox, Angelico, and Commander, which was a very fast-paced match. I just would have been completely shocked if Fenix wasn't the winner here. That crucifix bomb from Commander to Fenix looked like it could have been a 3 count. The referee froze for some reason before he got down to count, so that was goofy. But Fenix, I liked, he pushed Commander off the top rope into a moonsault onto Angelico. I thought that was cool. The ending was a bit confusing. It looked like Fenix struggled to pin AR Fox, but then it ended up being a submission anyway. So, all in all, I thought the match was pretty good. Earlier, we saw Deonna Purrazzo have a video where they had her explaining what it meant to be a virtuosa. And it kind of seemed, it went all over the Twitterverse, where the IWC kind of turned on Crowbar here. I saw that after the fact. It, to me, looked like a direct knockoff of the videos that Crowbar has been putting out on Twitter for years. So, I was there agreeing with Crowbar before I even knew Crowbar was putting that out there. And also, the video, CM Punk, the same exact week, spoke about actions having consequences. And this video was saying the same exact thing. So, I was kind of iffy on that video. We saw Thunder Rosa pick up the victory over Rachel Ellering, who, for some reason, was first now making her national TV debut. I would have sworn that she was on NXT TV, but she was on before they were on actual USA Network. So I think that's pretty crazy. But this match wasn't super one-sided. Thunder Rosa wasn't losing this match, but she helped Rachel Ellering up afterwards, and she raised her arm. Deonna Purrazzo ran in and pushed her into Thunder Rosa, and then fought both of them. And then on Collision, Deonna Purrazzo was interviewed, and Thunder Rosa showed up, and for some reason, challenged Deonna Purrazzo to a lumberjack match. Deonna Purrazzo, she said, made a lot of frenemies or enemies, whatever. I don't think that's the right step for the right progression for this feud. Following what they've already been through, I feel like this could have been like a steel cage match or something. I just don't think a lumberjack match, after that hardcore match that they had, it just doesn't make sense to me. We saw Shane Taylor Promotions pick up the victory over Top Flight. I was bored by most of this. The drop kick from Action Andretti into the German suplex from Darius to Lee Moriarty I thought was very nice. But the referee ultimately had zero control of this, and that just takes me out of the match. And then on Collision, they had Top Flight beat Anthony Ogogo and Lee Moriarty, which I hate seeing stuff like that back to back. It gives off like house show vibes to me when I see literally Friday and then Saturday, the same exact matchup, basically. That's what you get on live events. And it takes me out of that so much for doing that. I feel like the only time someone should have two matches on back-to-back nights is if there's a TV taping and then a pay-per-view. And that's not even the only time that they've done that with that episode of Rampage and Collision. So as I move on to Collision, I'll talk about that in a second. But it opened up with Takeshita picking up the victory over Tommy Billington. I thought this was an exciting match. I thought this match was much better than his match against Dax a few months ago. And this, I think, was the best Takeshita has looked in weeks. Outside of the tombstone spot where he looked goofy getting hit with a move where he towers over the guy giving it. But the Blue Thunder Bomb was fantastic. I think it looked better than his knee finish. I would have preferred for that to have been the finish of the match instead of that knee. But overall, I very much so enjoyed Takeshita and Tommy Billington. Don Callis tried to get Billington to join the Don Callis family afterwards by showing pictures of him with Bad News Allen and then pictures of Bad News Allen with Tommy's uncle, Dynamite Kid. And he shook Don's hand and then said no. So Don Callis slapped him. He put his hands on Don Callis and then Takeshita jumped him. Kyle Fletcher ran down to join in and FTR ultimately made the save. We saw the Bang Bang Scissor Gang pick up the victory over London Lightning, Michael Allen, Richard Clark. Can you get any more names on you? And then Sean Moore was also in that match on that team. No reason to talk about the match itself. But afterwards, they spoke about Jay White being hurt, and then they made Juice an official trios champion, even though Jay White did that weeks ago. And then Christopher Daniels came out and stripped them of the championships since Jay White is injured and they can't have somebody else fill in for them. And the patriarchy came out. Christian demanded to be anointed champions. And then Christopher Daniels set up a match between the two teams to become the new champions. But that has to be quite possibly one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in AEW. The champions get stripped of their titles. They had Juice in there for weeks as champion. They were fine with it up until this episode of Collision. They strip the champions and they're like, oh, well, you could wrestle for the titles. Goofy. Very, very goofy. On AEW Rampage, we saw Roddy pick up the victory over Ben Bishop, who is not a hockey star like everybody thought, because I believe Matt Menard said it. But Kyle O'Reilly and Mark Briscoe did commentary for this. Bishop is a big dude, so it was a quick, strong victory for Roderick Strong here. But on Collision, we had Roddy pick up the victory over Dalton Castle to become the number one contender for the ROH Championship. This, again, the back-to-back matches is not necessary for Roderick Strong. I don't think he needed that match against Big Ben Bishop. He could have just won the match against Dalton Castle, a former Ring of Honor champion. Also, it's bizarre because I could have sworn we've seen Roderick Strong wrestle in the AEW version of Ring of Honor, but I looked it up because it was killing me. I couldn't remember who he faced. We haven't seen Roddy wrestle in Ring of Honor since 2016, which is crazy. But it really doesn't make me invested in the Ring of Honor Championship. Mark Briscoe has been champion for, I think, over a month now and really has not done anything with it. So this is the first, big thing. for the Ring of Honor Championship in a long time. But for me, if you're going to put ROH matches on AEW TV, I would much rather see Athena. I would much rather see Billy Starks. We saw Sky Blue pick up the victory over Harley Cameron. Sky Blue is now a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader for some reason. All the previous stuff that we've seen with her literally last week or whenever it was, it's just she's a cheerleader now. Or whatever it is. But Saraya got involved behind the referee's back, or just a cowgirl, I have no idea. The match I really don't think was that good. I think Harley Cameron is too green to face someone like Sky Blue, who also is not fully developed in some aspects. And then she cut a promo afterwards and challenged Hikaru Shida to gain respect. And it sounded like the old voiceover work in a WWE video game where it's like super robotic, kind of. Not a good promo, but I understand the aspect of the promo where she doesn't think she has the respect of the locker room. But the gimmick change out of nowhere was very weird. The Kingdom picked up the victory over Kyle O'Reilly and Orange Cassidy. I thought this match was fine, but I don't think it was main event worthy. And I was very annoyed by the part where Kyle O'Reilly was choking Mike Bennett while Orange Cassidy had him up in that beach break position on the ropes. The referee counts 5. But he counts only because Kyle was choking him. Not because Bennett was on the ropes. And then Orange Cassidy kept him on the ropes for about a 9 count. If you kept going in your head. So that was pretty annoying. And then he was able to hit the beach break. But Roderick Strong got involved. Ishii fought him off. Ishii's going to be on AEW programming now through the summer, apparently. Trent came out and attacked Orange Cassidy. And then the Kingdom pushed Trent away from Kyle O'Reilly afterwards. And Orange Cassidy clocked Trent over the head with that wrench. And Trent, I guess, now is injured and off TV for the time being, maybe. Not 100% sure. So hopefully he gets better soon. AEW Dynamite kicked off. The episode 250 kicked off MJF picking up the victory over Will Ospreay to become the new international champion. I liked pretty early on in the match, Will Ospreay went for that hidden blade and MJF ducked it. Whether or not he obviously they knew what was happening, but storyline wise, whether or not he knew to actually, not to actually duck it, but whether or not he felt that Will Ospreay would have gone for that or whatever, the sequence was very good. And a lot of people say MJF can't wrestle, but he just goes out there and has matches like this and proves that he can wrestle. And you're not getting matches like this every single week from MJF. But when he goes out there and performs like this, I think it's very, very difficult to understand how people can say MJF can't wrestle. Because I thought this was fantastic. There were some bits and pieces of this that I thought were super goofy. We saw Will Ospreay set a table up ringside, and then the match continued. He eventually hurts his leg, so it was hard for him to run at times, and then he hurt his shoulder. Deck getting stacked against Will Ospreay here. And he wasn't selling both injuries throughout the match. It was select moments. But they eventually fought in the crowd, which to me makes no sense. Because a champion's advantage is a champion's advantage. Will Ospreay could have just stayed in the ring. MJF was the one that ran. If you stayed in the ring, the ref counts. Boom. You're still champion. The referee didn't care that a fan literally started to attack MJF at Will Ospreay's request. That should be a disqualification. But they eventually make it back to that table. Both of them end up moving from the spots. And then the match continues a lot longer. And they go back to the table. MJF hits an elbow drop through it. And in that last minute or so of action, MJF clocks Will Ospreay with that dynamite diamond ring, which I don't think I would have noticed had they not pointed that out. The referee was knocked out. And then MJF wins with literally, I think there was like 2 seconds left in that match. Ultimately, storyline-wise, Will Ospreay wrestled like a moron in this match. Like I said, he hurt his leg, he hurt his shoulder. He could have won by countout. And instead, he goes on to wrestle for an hour. So, Ospreay screwed Ospreay. But obviously, I think this is setting up for a rematch at All In. How do you make that event even bigger? You put a match like that on the card. Red Death, Danny Garcia did not return like I thought. So it seems like maybe Daniel Garcia will return after All In, perhaps. Or maybe at All In to help Will Ospreay win the title back. I do think it's kind of goofy with the flip-flop of the title. I really 100% was not expecting MJF to win that match. But outside of all that crowd fighting and stuff, I thought that was a very well done match. Probably one of the best matches on, not probably, it was definitely one of the best matches that they've ever had on an episode of Dynamite. After that, we saw the learning tree, where the main thing you need to know is that Minoru Suzuki finally showed up to confront Chris Jericho, even though they made it seem like he was going to be facing Chris Jericho at Forbidden Door on that one episode. We hadn't heard anything about him since, and he shows up. He had a contract for a match next week where the learning tree is banned from ringside. I don't think Minoru Suzuki is going to beat Chris Jericho for that championship. I don't know where it goes if he does beat Jericho. So that's why I can't really see him winning the title. On Collision, Nyla Rose defeated Ava Lawless, which there's really nothing to really say about that match. But later on in the night, Nyla accepted Mercedes' open challenge, which it always seems like Nyla is randomly there to face a champion, a new champion. But on Dynamite, we saw Mercedes Moné pick up the victory over Nyla Rose to retain. And I could have done without this match. Mercedes mocked Britt Baker by using the lockjaw. She did the glove. Nyla bit down on Mercedes' hand, which commentary explained that perhaps Mercedes didn't know how to apply the pressure. But Mercedes ends up tapping Nyla Rose out with the bank statement. We have a fan in the crowd with the DMD is greater than Mercedes sign that Mercedes stops at, and I'm like, well, that's suspicious. And then they put the sign down. She's got a Sting mask on. I'm like, well, obviously that's Britt Baker. She does the Sting gimmick. She takes the mask off. It's Britt Baker. She throws Mercedes down, hops the barricade. She gets held back. That's the end of that segment. After that, we saw Mariah May show up. She came out as Timeless Toni Storm. It didn't seem like the people cared, which was surprising. I don't know if it was just that they had the crowd mic turned all the way off or what it was, but it didn't seem like there was a pop or anything once they realized that it was her even. But Mariah May basically said that everybody should have seen this coming and puts over All In. And I think this segment was a bit too long for what it accomplished. It could have been shorter. And then in the main event, we saw Swerve pick up the victory over Okada via disqualification. The match didn't sell me on Blood and Guts, which is next week. And I think the opening match with MJF and Will Ospreay completely overshadowed everything else on this episode. I understand the ending of this episode ties in with Blood and Guts directly, but Will Ospreay and MJF was very much so the main event. I don't think this was a good look for the AEW Championship. Even with that champion in the actual main event spot, it was just like a nothing match. The Bucks attacked Swerve. The Acclaimed ran down to Brawl. Earlier in the night, they were like, we accept to be on Team AEW to Mark Briscoe. Why the hell is Mark Briscoe like the team captain? When the Acclaimed were part of this before Mark Briscoe was there. And Jungle Boy hit the ring. Mark Briscoe hits the ring. Hangman finally shows up. There was a very awkward spot where Okada pulled Swerve out of the ring when Hangman was going for the lariat. That was weird. But then they're all like waiting for Darby Allin. Darby's music hit, by the way. Jungle Boy challenged Darby earlier to come find him. And everyone's like, where's Darby? Where's Darby? And I saw Mark Briscoe look up and I'm like, oh, well, obviously he's waiting for a Sting-like entrance. And Darby Allin showed up like Sting, and none of this made me care about that Blood and Guts match at all. It just, even though you had it for how many weeks you've been doing it, it just seems super rushed. It's like start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. I think there was like a month in between where they didn't even mention from the challenge to when they showed up again to talk about it. I think that was like a month in between. And I thought it was super goofy that they did 2 Sting references on this episode. So overall, I know a lot of people are going to say like, oh, this was like a great episode of Dynamite. I think the first hour of Dynamite was very well done. What came after that was, it could have been better. So that's AEW Dynamite. Hey, Brandon, got any shout-outs?
Hey there, Hef. We should listen to Brandon's shout-outs.
The first shout-out goes to Cassidy Pope's new album, Hereditary, which came out last Friday, and I think it's a fantastic album.
Cassidy Pope is so talented.
Yeah, man, I've been waiting for this album for over a year, so I'm glad that it's finally out now. When I saw her last year at that pop-up event in New York City, she played some of these songs. I think the 2 of the 3 new songs that she performed were already out there as like singles, but she played this one song that's I now know is titled Secret, and it was like literally stuck in my head ever since I heard it. And it wasn't until February of this year when she happened to be doing a TikTok live. I met her in July of last year. It was just over a year. So from July to February, I had no clue what the song was even going to be called. But she was doing a TikTok live, and I asked her what the title was, and she said, oh, that's Secret. So Secret is out now on Hereditary, and I think that's a great album, so check that out. The A&E biography of The Miz gets the next shout out, which was definitely an extended version of the WWE 24 documentary that came out a few years ago. Also kind of goofy that they used certain interview footage from that 24 documentary, which came out, like I said, like 3 years ago. But they cut interviews from Cardona, they cut Ziggler, John Morrison wasn't in it.
Come on now.
It makes sense, but at the same time, you're like half telling the story, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But I still enjoyed the documentary, and I think those A&E biographies are always well done. It was mostly, it was like, because I think the 24 episode of for The Miz was like an hour long. This was a 2 hour long. So this was probably like 30, 35 extra minutes of footage, perhaps. So I would say check that out. For my final shout out, There were a few celebrities that passed away over the past week or so, and I wanted to acknowledge all of them. So I grouped them all as this last shout out. Shelley Duvall passed away at the age of 75 last week, which she's probably most famous for her roles in The Shining and Popeye.
Shining, Popeye. Yeah, she was a big celebrity and everything, and very unfortunate.
She got out of acting. She was just like, she just returned to acting after, I don't know if it was like 20 years of not being in the spotlight.
Yeah, haven't heard from her or seen her in a long time.
But it's crazy that The Shining and Popeye came out the same year because they're like polar opposites of like what they are. Mm-hmm. She was also in Suburban Commando with Christopher Lloyd and Hulk Hogan, with an appearance from The Undertaker. I thought that was that's always a fun movie to watch. Mm-hmm. Dr. Ruth passed away at the age of 96. She was a famous sex therapist. She was a talk show host, but she was an extraordinary person who, as a child, survived the Holocaust in Nazi Germany. She went on to become a trained sniper. She never saw action, but she's still this like 4'11" trained sniper. I think that's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
My parents actually, I don't know what the event was, but there was some event that she was a guest of honor at, and they ended up picking her up and dropping her off after the event. So I think that's pretty cool. We have a signed Dr. Ruth game here. And I know you...
A game?
Yeah, there's a sex game or whatever. I guess to help as a sex therapist. It's unplayed, so that's... Thank God, right?
I'm not making any comments on this one. But, yes, I did have my own interaction with Dr. Ruth. When I was up at Oneonta, she actually came up there to do a speech. I can't remember anything about the speech.
It had to have been about
whatever
the Holocaust,
like that.
No?
I don't remember. I don't think it was. I think she was just, because Oneonta, we used to bring in, like they had Maya Angelou come in at some point. They had so many speakers come up, and she was one of them at one point, and I ended up meeting her at the eating hall. I saw her getting food with someone, like somebody that was taking care of her, that was working for this, like a student that was volunteering. And I walked up to her and I said hi and stuff, and I got a picture and got her autograph on, I think it's on her poster for the event. I may have taken it off of the wall and had her sign it.
Do you still have it? Do you know where it is?
Yeah, I still have it. It's in my autograph book. But,
is that in your house or no?
Yeah, in my house.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'll definitely show you it. I'll see if I can find the picture of me and her. She's like 5 inches taller than me. So.
Richard Simmons also passed away this week at the age of 76, who obviously was a very famous fitness personality. Just, I mean, really fun on TV shows. I think his episode of Whose Line Is It Anyway might be one of their, like, if not their best episode. I know Robin Williams is also up there as an episode for Whose Line. But he was always such a good guest on talk shows. He was on Howard Stern a lot. I'm kind of very surprised that during that, like, whole guest host run of Monday Night Raw that he was never one of them. Because I feel like he would have been, like, a shoo-in for that.
Uh-huh.
But that never happened. Shannon Doherty also passed away at the age of 53. She had been battling breast cancer for years, and she had gone into remission, but it unfortunately came back. She was most famous for her role for Beverly Hills 90210. And then she was on Charmed as well. That was a pretty big show for her. She wrestles Booker T and Scott Steiner on an episode of Charmed. So if you've not seen that, I would highly recommend looking that up. They did, I don't know what to call it. It's not like a reboot, but it's like a reboot it was a show called BH 90210 where the cast like reunited to play heightened versions of themselves, trying to reboot the show. This was in 2019. I really wish that Jungle Boy appeared on one of those episodes, because his father, literally, Luke Perry, he wasn't signed on to do the show, but I believe he had like creative input for it and then passed away before they could like do the show. And that's when Shannon Doherty signed on to do it. She was like, well, obviously I'm going to sign on to pay tribute to Luke. So I wish they had Jungle Boy appear on that, but I thought that was a cool show, and I wish there was more seasons of that. And the last part of this shout out is going to Bob Newhart, who passed away at the age of 94. He was a comedian, and I really hope that younger generations study him. He was like a deadpan, dry comic, soft voice, who really ushered in like a new style of comedy. Because prior to Bob Newhart, a lot of it was like Borscht Belt vaudeville style. Mm-hmm. So I think at least he completely changed the game of comedy. He hosted a variety series called The Bob Newhart Show. And then he had a
funny
sitcom.
show.
No, I think you're thinking of the sitcom.
Yeah.
He had a sitcom by the same name, which was a super famous show. Very famous show. And then he had another famous sitcom just called Newhart, which probably has one of the most famous finales in the history of television, where it tied into the Bob Newhart Show. After all those years, like he woke up from a dream and it was like they were on the Bob Newhart Show there. And he like just dreamt of, like, Newhart was just a dream to him, his character on the Bob Newhart Show, basically. So if you've not seen that, I highly recommend that.
Very, very funny show. I always like there's one crossover episode where their receptionist ends up on Taxi going out on a date with Christopher Lloyd's character.
I completely forgot about that until you just brought that up.
Yeah, I think that how they did crossovers like that was pretty funny.
She played herself in that, though.
Yeah.
But he was in quite a few movies. He was, I know he played Bernard in The Rescuers and every, like, Rescuers Down Under. He also reprised that for the Once Upon a Time. What was it called? There was a Disney short that came out recently. He was in Elf.
Papa.
And his last, I saw the Empire State Building pay tribute to him from that. But his last television roles were of him playing Professor Proton on The Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon. I always hoped to have seen him perform live, but I unfortunately never got to. So
yeah, he was great as that role on Big Bang Theory too.
Yeah.
I mean, recurring character too. Even after he passed away on the show, he was still showing up as a hologram, sort of like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which is Brandon's favorite movie.
I've not seen a single episode. But those are my shout-outs. Go watch, go listen to all these celebrities, and just remember them. So those are my shout-outs. Now it's time for our
Mark Out Moment of the Week.
That is right, our Mark Out Moment of the Week. We mentioned her before, Stephanie Vicor, who I don't know how to pronounce her name, apparently. I don't know. There's like, I've heard so many different pronunciations of her name.
Yeah,
on Monday Night Raw, Michael Cole said Stephanie Backer, and I've heard other people say that, but then I've literally heard people in, I think it might have been New Japan, say Vicor. So there's like so many different pronunciations, but she actually made her WWE debut on Saturday night in Mexico City and defeated Isla Dawn. And I thought it was cool that, like, first of all, they announced that she was just going to be there. And I figured it was going to be like an in-ring segment thanking the fans.
Yeah, I didn't expect her to actually be wrestling.
Yeah, no, then footage came out. People were like, oh my God, she faced Candice LeRae. And news sites were like publishing that without like actual confirmation. And then finally a video showed up. I'm like, that's not Candice LeRae. That's Isla Dawn. So I thought that was really cool. She won the match. She wrestled, I think, Isla Dawn on both nights. But it was completely unexpected. Really cool to see that. Also on that Mexico City show, Rey Mysterio wore pink tights, which would have been similar to tights that he would have worn in 1994, which I thought was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And also Bayley had a luchador mask. Her whole gear was themed.
The whole gimmick.
So I thought that was pretty cool. The mask was made from Lince Dorado, or made by Lince Dorado. I believe he makes a lot of her gear, so I thought that was pretty cool. You have any other mark out moments?
No, I think that entire aspect with her showing up in, especially after the matchup she had with Sasha Banks in AEW, I think that, yeah, I don't know. I think that was so huge. I mean, they just wrestled each other on AEW not even a month ago. And now she's signed with WWE.
And the AEW Galaxy turned on her.
Yeah, I think that's just...
Bad business! Bad business! She burnt bridges! Meanwhile, AEW put out an offer too, they say. So if she signed with AEW, there'd be no burnt bridges comments from them.
Exactly. I mean, it was her entire dream to be a WWE wrestler as well. You know, so I think that people have to be a little bit more lenient with all of that.
And like with Roxanne Perez mentioning her and Julia, like that was very unexpected, and we have to know that's got to be coming soon.
Yeah,
it can't be both of them though. I don't know how that's going to work. Yeah, I thought that was a very good aspect of Roxanne's promo there.
Yeah, I agree. I think mark out was to see AJ in Japan.
EO too.
Yeah, EO too. Those are two moments of marking out.
Fantastic match by both of them, by the way.
True.
I saw somebody post, they were like one of those like Hecate tweets, like here's the whole match. And I sat there watching it. I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend doing that, but
no. Yeah, I think that's good for marking out.
So that is episode 702. You could follow us on Twitter at Markin Out, at BTTG161 on Twitter and Instagram, at Chris Sweendog, CM Sweeney85 on Twitter and Instagram, David PTDPT on all platforms, Facebook.com/MarkinOut, YouTube.com/MarkinOut11. That's our Instagram as well. Check us out on ProWrestlingTees.com/MarkinOut. Purchase some merch. We'd greatly appreciate that. You could follow us on TikTok at Markin Out. You could check us out at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, iHeartRadio. I think Audible is part of Amazon, but you could probably get there as well. Markinout.com. And we wish you the best of luck in your future endeavor.